Your kid mentioned a friend at school. By bedtime, you've Googled the friend's parents, scrolled their Instagram, and casually dropped 17 follow-up questions disguised as conversation. A number that somehow felt reasonable at the time. You call it being involved. Your teen calls it surveillance with a smile. The parents who lose access to their teens are rarely the indifferent ones. They're usually the ones who cared the most. The distance didn't happen because they stopped loving you. It happened because every conversation started feeling expensive. 5 patterns that feel like closeness, including the one your teen's already building walls around, that decide whether your kid keeps letting you in or disappears while you're standing right there. 1. The open door policy that closed everything. You told them they could come to you with anything, anytime, no judgment. So when they mentioned a bad day, you were there. When they seemed off at dinner, you asked. When they went quiet in the car, you filled the space with questions until the silence felt less scary for you. You showed up for every emotional signal, real or imagined, like a customer service rep with a 24/7 chat widget and a satisfaction survey after every interaction. Feedback form to follow. Problem is, you also showed up when nobody sent a signal. They're in their room doing homework, and you knock, just checking in. They're texting a friend. You lean over. Who's that? They walk through the door after school, and before their bag hits the floor, how was it? What happened? Did that thing with Maya get resolved? From your side, attentive, caring, present. From their side, there's a parent-shaped drone hovering over every unguarded moment of their life. So they don't push back. They just quietly shrink the parts of their life you have access to. The diary moves to a Google Doc titled Chemistry Notes. The real conversations happen on a group chat you've never heard of. The feelings go somewhere you'll never be invited. You left the door open so wide, they climbed out the window. And the worst part, you'll describe this kid to your friends as going through a phase. They went through your security perimeter and found every exit you forgot to lock. 2. When questions become checkpoints. Research finds teens share more when questions feel curious and less when they feel like monitoring. Same parent, same words. The difference was whether the question felt loaded. How was the party? Can land 2 completely different ways. It can mean, I'm interested in your life, or I'm running diagnostics. This conversation may be monitored for quality assurance purposes. Your teen knows the difference before you finish the sentence. The most over-involved parents don't ask once. They ask in layers. How was it? Then, who was there? Then, was Dylan there? Then, what did Dylan say? Then, was anyone drinking? That's a funnel, and your kid can feel themselves being filtered through it. So they learn to front load the safe answers. It was fine. Sophie was there. We watched a movie. Home by 10. Technically accurate, emotionally redacted. You got the press release. Both of you went to bed thinking communication happened. The real version of the evening, the part where something actually went down, the part they might have needed to talk about, went to a group chat called LOL. Anyway, every question with a preloaded consequence behind it stops being a question. It becomes a checkpoint, and checkpoints produce strategy, never honesty. Your teen's withholding because honesty became more expensive than silence. 3. The moment support becomes ownership. They pick up a guitar. You buy a better guitar. Before they've learned 3 chords, you find a teacher. You send YouTube tutorials at 7 a.m., the universal parenting language for I'm helping. You sit in the living room during practice and clap like you're front row at Carnegie Hall. They quit guitar, which was confusing because you were being supportive at a level usually reserved for Olympic athletes and small dictatorships. They start drawing. You buy supplies. You sign them up for a class. You hang every sketch sketch on the fridge. You post one on Facebook with the caption, "My little artist." They stop drawing in front of you. The hobby survived. It just changed witnesses. The moment a parent colonizes a hobby, tracks it, celebrates it publicly, turns it into a joint venture, the teen's sense of ownership starts disappearing. The thing they picked for themselves becomes another thing they perform for you. The guitar was theirs until you made it a family event. The drawing was theirs until it became content. The interest was theirs until you turned support into co-ownership. And co-ownership always has a silent shareholder meeting. Your teen somehow became the minority owner of their own hobby and never agreed to attend. And that's not even the part that cost parents the relationship. 4. What your teen will never say out loud. You didn't want your parent gone. You wanted them at a distance that felt like a choice. You wanted to come home and say, "My day was weird," and have that be enough. Have them nod, maybe ask one question, and let you decide whether to keep going. Instead, every crumb you dropped turned into a full excavation. You mentioned a friend, and suddenly it's an interview. You mentioned a feeling, and suddenly there's a family meeting about your emotional infrastructure. So, you stop mentioning things. And your parents interpreted that silence as everything being fine. They thought quiet meant peace. You knew quiet meant you stopped including them. You started pre-editing every sentence before it left your mouth. Is this going to become a conversation I can leave, or is this going to become a 2-hour investigation with emotional subpoenas? The loneliest version of this? You actually wanted to talk. You just couldn't figure out how to talk without it becoming their project. A parent trying harder and harder to earn access. A kid backing further and further into a version of themselves that only exists where the Wi-Fi is private. 5. The signs that look like a phase but aren't. One of these alone means nothing. 3 or more, consistently, that's the picture. They answer your questions in complete sentences that contain zero actual information. School was fine, practice was good, yep, dinner was great. Public relations, not conversation. They've stopped starting conversations with you entirely. They respond if you talk, they never initiate. You know their schedule, their grades, their friends' names. You know nothing about how they actually feel about any of it. They have earbuds in the second they enter shared space. Present in the house, absent in the room. When you try to join something they're doing, they lose interest in it. The game gets paused. The sketchbook closes. The phone goes dark. You're looking at a kid who hasn't left home. They've just moved everything that matters to a location you don't have the password for. IT support cannot assist with this account. 6. What doing nothing actually looks like. The instinct is to pull back dramatically. Go from maximum involvement to radio silence. Stop asking, stop checking, stop showing up at all. That overcorrection is the same pattern wearing different clothes. You went from drone to ghost. Both versions are about managing your anxiety, not what your kid actually needs. They come home, you say hi, you let them put their bag down, you let them exist in the house for 20 minutes without a single question. If they talk, listen, ask one follow-up, and stop. If they don't, let the silence stay, without filling it, without treating it as a symptom. The hardest part is that restraint feels like abandonment when you're used to being everywhere. Your chest tightens. You want to ask. You want to check. You want to confirm you still matter. That urge, that need to close the gap, is the exact force that built the gap in the first place. One dad told me he realized the problem the night his daughter was crying in her room, and he stood outside the door with his hand on a knob for 10 minutes. He wanted to go in so badly his hand was shaking. Instead, he knocked once and said, "I'm out here if you want me." Then he sat on the hallway floor and waited. She came out 45 minutes later and sat next to him without saying anything. They stayed like that for 10 minutes. He said it was the most connected he'd felt with her in 2 years. He did nothing. That was the whole point. Your kid didn't pull away because you were a bad parent. They pulled away because your love had no breathing room in it. And love without space stops feeling like love. It starts feeling like a project with no deadline, no deliverables, just endless status updates nobody asked for. The parent who earns the real version of their kid is the one who can sit in that same house, sense that something might be off, and choose, deliberately, painfully, to wait to let the kid come to them on their timeline, in their words. That's where trust actually lives. In the gap you're scared to leave open. If you can hold that space, the one that feels like doing nothing, you'll discover something that rewrites the whole equation. They were always going to come back. They just needed to know the door was open and the hallway was empty. Because the opposite of overparenting is presence with permission. And permission is the thing your kid's been waiting for you to give, without them having to ask for it in a way that hurts your feelings. Your teen's been building this particular wall for years. Watch why teens stop talking to their parents next. That's where you find out how far back it started.